So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to manage expectations overall so that you can have a successful engagement with your client. So if you're a business owner and you want to have like a successful engagement with your client, I really recommend kind of managing their expectations. Now, the reason for that is because the human brain wanders, makes stuff up, and sometimes is irrational. Now, I'm guilty of that too. So if you have some sort of guide, some sort of client success guide, which I call it, that you guys can both look at and follow and kind of have that as the rule book, then honestly, it's going to make your life so much better. Not only just for you and your business, but also for your client. And I'll tell you firsthand, I managed so many clients from the 6-figure level, which means they're doing $100,000 plus, from the 7-figure level, which means they're doing $1 million a year plus, from the 8-figure level, which means they're doing $10 million plus, and the 9-figure level, which means they're doing $100 million plus. So when I've done this portion, which is managing expectations, I see a huge overall success rate with my clients. The reason why is because clients are not gonna know, because just because they pay you doesn't mean they know when you're going to speak to them, where they should communicate, how often they should communicate with you, and all this good stuff. So I'm gonna take you through an example of 2 things. One, our client success guide, which is, I think 7 or 9 pages, 10 pages. And then I'm going to show you an example of what Basecamp looks like for us. And Basecamp, it's basically a project management system. Now, internally for us, we use Asana. We like to use that internally for our team. Basecamp, we use externally. So that means it's client facing. That means the client can see this. So the client can't see what's in our Asana, but the client can see what's in Basecamp, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of record my screen as well to kind of show you what I'm looking at, but I'm gonna show you through both of those, the client success guide and then also Basecamp, which showcases all of that information. Now, the reason you wanna have this, as I mentioned, is it just kind of makes everybody's life so much easier because it's no longer a guessing game. And it's no longer he said, she said this. You guys are both abiding by this. And that means you guys are both accountable to this document to make sure that it's a successful relationship between you both. Now, when one person has the authority over the other, which is true, as the client, you should have the authority over the project because obviously they hired you to do something. You still want to make sure that you guys follow the doc and you don't abuse of that power. So I'm going to take you through the client success guide first, but the client success guide will actually be in Basecamp, all right? And I'm going to tell you what things you should have as part of not only just your onboarding process, but as part of kind of managing these expectations. So if we go to the client success guide first, you'll see that the first page is literally just client success guide, right? Second page has the rules of the game. Now you'll notice in the client success guide and in Basecamp, I have the rules of the game twice. 3 times actually, because we also have it in the contract. So they sign it in the contract, they look at it and they make sure to review it in Basecamp, and they look at it and review it in Client Success Guide. Why? Because they are the rules. If you do not abide by these rules, it's just not good, right? So if we read through it, it says, we want you to be successful in your business. And for us to do that, we need to be successful in our execution. So please review the following guidelines as they pertain to our engagement. Again, they should sign this before you guys ever talk. That way you guys have this and it's like, you know, it's just not debatable. And I'm going to take you through both of them. So you can see it's in here too, the Client Success Guide and in Basecamp, all right? So I'm going to go through each of the rules and I'm going to tell you why they're so important. So number 1, all communication will be in Basecamp. Any calls will be scheduled in Basecamp. There's no exception to this. We do this because Basecamp documents everything, and that's crucial for everyone. Same with calls. All calls will be recorded through Zoom for documentation, reference, and so the team can review afterwards. Now, the reason this is the number 1 is because if you have clients and they're texting you, they're emailing you, they're WhatsApping you, they're Facebook messaging you, Instagram DMing you, you're never going to get any work done because you have so many forms of communication. That's not good for anyone. Now, for me, and for our client managers, let's say we're busy working on something, right? If we're ready to do client manager work, which is like it's on our scheduled time or something like that, then we can log into Basecamp and have all of it be central and in one place. You don't want your days to be scattered by responding here, responding there, and then not being able to do the client work that you're actually supposed to be doing. Another thing is same with calls. All calls will be recorded and Basecamp documents everything. So you don't ever want to leave it to, well, I thought you said this. No. We don't think anything. That's why it's documented, right? That's why the calls are recorded. So whenever, and I utilize this so much. It's like hey, you mentioned you were going to get this stuff to me. It's all good. No worries. And he's like, when did I say that? Be like, oh, well, here's a reference to our call. Here's the timestamp. This is when you said you were going to get it done. Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Right. People forget, people get busy. It's no worries, but you want to make sure that you not only just save your ass, but you hold people accountable. Same thing with your team. If I'm talking to the client and I'm saying, hey, our team's going to go ahead and get this stuff done by this day, it is now recorded in Zoom. And if we can't get it done, then we'll let the client know, hey, we're not able to make the deadline that we set. But if we just forget about it, then it shows we're not really accountable to our word, right? So that's super important. So it's beneficial for so many reasons. One, you keep communication all in one place. Number two, for documentation purposes and reference purposes and keeping everybody accountable, okay? Number two, I understand that influencer press has my best interests at heart. And by offering a guarantee, they are taking a risk for my benefit. So by agreeing to that, all you're just agreeing to is that you understand that we have a risk as well. So because we'll give you your full money back plus an extra couple $1,000s if we fail, right? And that guarantee is strong, not just because they get their money back and an extra couple thousand, but because we also lose out on operating costs, right? So we're losing out a lot. So that keeps us as a business accountable to what we said we're going to do. Number three, I understand that strategic media placement from influence press is only a supplement to my business and branding efforts, not an overnight one-shot cure-all for my business. Now, why is that important? Because you want to make it very clear, like depending on what your service is and what it is not, right? For me, for press, it's a supplement. It is not a cure. It won't cure everything that's happening in your business because there's always going to be a bottleneck, right? So that needs to be super clear. Number four, so the growth of my business is solely my responsibility. And I understand that I must engage in the proper business development activities, including but not limited to networking, referrals, cold calling, warm calling, etc., and not solely rely on influencer press for my business success. Same thing as the last one, right? It's that your business is your business and it is solely your responsibility to get yourself results, not us. Our responsibility is to get you what you contracted us for and what you paid us for. But outside of that, it's not our business. We can't control it like you can. Okay. Number five, I understand that there are levels of media placement that I will be receiving, and that is, it is my sole responsibility to leverage the PR that I receive and turn it into opportunity and sales. Influencer press is not responsible for sales in any capacity. Now, the reason why is because number one, levels of media placement. So in our accelerator, it goes through an extension format. It goes from smaller tier to middle tier to higher tier. Now, in the beginning, when we get the smaller tier, even though it's in here, even though it's in the call, and even though it's in our videos in the beginning, some clients will still say, why are we getting these smaller tier publications? So that's why it's super important that they go through this, because it's like, hey, we mentioned on the call, on this, on that, and here's the videos that you just watched. Like, this is our model. This is the way that it goes. And then it'd be like, oh shoot, my bad. I forgot, or I didn't pay attention, whatever it is. Number six, I agree to allow influencer press to do their job and not micromanage any part of the process. Now, here's a big one. The reason why that's so important is because just because they hired you to do a certain thing does not mean that they are your boss. You need to pay attention to that one clearly. They do not have any authority over you. And I know I spit out really loud, but they don't have any authority over you on what times you should be working. Obviously, if you're not working diligently, then obviously that's your fault, right? But they cannot tell you, hey, wake up at 9 a.m. or hey, let's have a call at 9 p.m. in the night. I used to do that stuff all the time, and it used to get me in a boatload of trouble because I was at people's beck and call. And even though you think you're doing the client a service, you're actually doing them a disservice by being available all of the time, because they don't respect your time and they feel like you're just somebody that they ended up hiring that doesn't know how to run their business because you're at their beck and call, basically. Okay. So no micromanaging whatsoever. Now, if they're not getting the results, that's different, right? But micromanaging is where, and you're like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why are you, whatever. You want to make sure that you're clear and you have those expectations filled with the client, but you never want them to be the boss over you, okay? And it's in the contract too, and I'll have another video for the contract as well to talk about that stuff, but it's super important. Okay, let's go to the next one. I understand that Influencer Press is a guaranteed strategic media placement company, and by going into business with them, I understand that they will get me the press, and it is my responsibility to generate sales and do everything else in the business, basically. Same thing, it's just restating it multiple times, right? Number 8, I understand that Influencer Press has many clients and that Influencer Press employees have lives and families and promise to respect their time and trust that Influencer Press will deliver the results as outlined. Basically what that's saying is like, just be a human being. We're going to take time off for holidays, things like that. Some people are going to get COVID, all of that good stuff. We're all human, right? And as long as we have that initial respect, we should be fine. Like, it should be great. So we have a lot of clients. It doesn't mean now, if that's not an excuse though, to not deliver results or to not be as attentive. That's not like, I'll tell you like a little bit later when we get into Basecamp, our client managers are in there every single day. So we respond daily, right? And we have a lot of over communication. But anyways, I'll go through that when I get to that. All right. Number 9, I understand that Influencer Press is not a perfect system, and just like any other business, challenges happen. So I do pride myself in this business to be a great system, but it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. So when challenges happen, that's like the perfect time, perfect moment to just talk about what ended up happening, get it fixed, but not expecting perfection, because that's never going to happen in anything or anybody that you hire. Number 10, I understand that I am going into partnership with Influencer Press, and if any challenges arise, we will both work together to solve any challenges and be patient with one another to make things right. Now, I'm going to tell you, this goes both ways, right? And this is why it's like, it's not just them abiding to our rules. We also abide to these rules. We have clients, this is supposed to be a 3-month accelerator. We have clients that have been with us for a year because we're still waiting on items to get from them. And we're still contacting them every single day, every single week through email, Basecamp, all of that stuff to move forward. Now we have that patience where, we understand things happen, whatever, so and so. So we don't just cut people off and it's like, it's over, we're done with, right? So the same thing, we're expecting, not the same, but we are expecting that if there's a challenge, we're both going to go ahead and take a look at it and be like, okay, this is a solution. This is what we can do. Let's move forward. Because we both have the same end goal, right? They hired us to achieve a result. We're going to get the result done, but we can't get it done if we can't agree on what the solution is. Number 11, we both understand that we are human beings and agree to be understanding and compassionate. Now, the reason why is because sometimes you'll get Karens, right? And that's just a general term for people that are not understanding, are very unrealistic, are very irrational sometimes. And we'll get clients like that too. And, we'll end up firing them and things of that sort. But having something like this makes it to where if they read this with you and they go through this with you, which you should during your onboarding process, then it's like, hey, you kind of agreed to this beforehand. Like, you can't be doing that type of stuff, right? You have to be respectful. I understand that by violating any of these rules, I will be impeding my own business, Influencer Press's business, and Influencer Press's ability to generate consistent long-term results for myself and other clients. That is super important. I have some clients that will not follow the rules of engagement and expect the result to happen or expect the successful engagement when they're not following anything in the client success guide that they signed to in the contract, that they reviewed in Basecamp, marked complete, and went through during the call. So it's like, it's like, for example, not doing the workouts and expecting to be fit, not doing the diet and expecting to be healthy. It's just kind of like, it's not really going to happen. So that's why we have that. If you do not agree to these rules, or if you do not, abide by them, you are impeding your own results. I agree to not take advantage of the guarantee. And if I'm receiving press, I will not ask for a refund except for an extreme circumstance. Now, the reason why is because some people, like, for example, our guarantee is rock solid. Like I mentioned, we lose out on operating costs plus the full refund plus the $2,000 that we give back. That's a lot of money, right? Now, the reason it has to be rock solid. So it's like the guarantee, and I'll show you in the contract video, but basically it's like, we will give this to you as long as we will give you the entire refund and all of that stuff. We can deliver. And if you were cooperative the whole time, if you gave us the information that we needed, if you showed up on the calls, if you gave us cooperation on the articles, all of that stuff, and we could not deliver for you, we will give you the refund entirely. Now, if you don't give us what we need, if you don't show up, I had a client a long time ago, missed 6 meetings out of the meetings that she scheduled with us, didn't provide us information and all of that stuff, and wanted a refund for items that we already had delivered. And I'm like, this, to me, that's frustrating, because I'm like, look, we tried our best to get a hold of you and we could not. I don't think we should be punished for your lack of engagement because we did our part. But anyways, another thing. I understand that articles by nature will require editing and iterations. This is a part of the process, not a downfall. So that's number 14. The reason why is because articles is something as a part of our job. It's a part of our business. Now, the reason that's important is because articles in nature, when you write an article, the first thing that you notice is it's a draft. All articles start out as drafts. Now, some people have the unrealistic expectation that the first time you send them an article, it's going to be boom, picture perfect. And that's just not the case. That never happens, right? We can interview you, we can do all that stuff, but at the same time, there's gonna be some times when we just miss the mark, and that's okay, because then it's just like we hop on a call, we get it fixed, and then we change it, we send it back, and then it gets better, right? But it's basically saying like, hey, if they take a look at the articles of the very first drafts and they're like, these suck, it's okay that they suck as long as you let us know how can we make them better, because all articles by nature in the beginning should not be perfect. But if they are, great, right? We get extra points for that. But just realistically, they're most likely not going to be. Okay. So there's that. Number 15, the goal is to make this a 3-month process, a 90-day sprint. However, we understand that time will be needed even after the 90 days if the project is behind the normal schedule. So again, that's between both of us. Even if we finish the 90-day period, that doesn't mean that our work ends with you there. This is not a retainer for 3 months. We are delivering deliverables to you as a client. So, we want to make sure that they know, even if the 90 days end, we will still work for you, even if the project is behind or things like that, in order to get you up to speed. Number 16, I understand that if the client is unresponsive for 30 days, that I'm unable to hold Influence Press liable for any results not delivered. I also understand that 30 days start from the article date, not the deposit date. So 2 things there. And I have it for number 17 too. So we have a 4-week clause, which basically states that if we are unable to get a hold of you for 30 days, you basically terminate your relationship with us. But if you want to come back, we still can. It's just you can't hold us liable for any results you didn't get, because we obviously can't get a hold of you, right? And especially for 30 days, that's a whole month. It's like you hired us, you paid a pretty penny, and we weren't able to get a hold of you. So that's number 16. Same thing with number 17. I understand that by being inactive and unresponsive for 30 days or for the 4-week clause, that I terminate the agreement with Influence Press, and we can remove, or an Influence Press can and will remove them from the project in the event that this takes place and is terminated. No portion of any payments of any kind whatsoever previously provided hereunder shall be owed or repayable or refunded to the client. Now that's a mouthful. Basically what that's saying is the same thing that I just said. If you are inactive, if you are unresponsive, you really can't expect us to deliver you the results. It's just almost impossible, right? Because we need a lot of the content from the client to make sure people get published. We need them to hop on podcasts, on TV, things of that sort. All right, now that was a mouthful. That's just page number 2. That was the longest one, by the way.